the choreography myself. Hey honey, have you gained some weight in your rear end? The dress you wear reminds me of my old girlfriend. And where'd you get those shoes? I think they're pretty lame. Would you stop talking, cause I'm trying to watch the game? If you're a man who wants to live a long and happy life, these are the things you don't say to your wife. I planned a hunting trip next week on your birthday. I didn't ask you, but I knew it'd be okay. Go make some dinner while I watch this fishing show. I taped it over our old wedding video. If you're a man who've done that, a long and happy life, these are the things you don't say to your wife. Solo. Okay. Your cooking is okay, but not like mother makes. The diamond in the ring I bought you is a fake. Your eyes look puffy, dear. Are you feeling ill? Happy anniversary, I bought you a treadmill. You're a man who wants to live a long and happy life, that too. These are the things you don't say to your wife. You're a man who doesn't want to get killed with a knife. These are the things you don't say to your wife.
There you go. There you go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fire Program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I hope your day was going well. I hope it was stress-free, full of many good tidings. I apologize for my lateness. I apologize. I was neglectful. I was terrible. I should be shunned. And I am being shunned right now, in part because I didn't send out notifications to like anyone. And that's never good. So let me just remedy this really fast Wednesday night, because I gotta get you guys some friends to hang out. Right now. Saying 10:45 would just be a lie in every possible way. Look at this. You're too kind to me. Thank you so very much, Bella Stella. God bless you. Here I was feeling stressed. God bless you. This is what I should put a goal up, right? Following 10 people brought into the following courtesy of Quitter Recruitment. It's really 20 because she hit 10 on the last show. So God bless. I need to just give the bell there. When you hear your name called out, that's a sign you should be saying thank you to Queen Recruitment. Bella Stella includes William Bowers, Frozen Toy, Sushi, Brett W., Nana Banana, playing the piano. All she could do was splits. G. Sharkman, look at that. He's been here for a year and he's loving it. Look at this, King times 3. I don't even know what that means. I'm seeing stuff here. I don't even know what the crown number 3 means, but I'm loving it. Perrin Besh, Jennifer, Blue Waffle. Really? And M169, also an old schooler. Welcome to the following. Oh, I missed April May too. That's not good. Welcome to the following, which is not at all a cult type of cult, and I'm very much not at all the leader of the following. I'm just a host who's very late and properly being shunned for it. Properly being shunned for it. Wow. All right. Where was we? Why am I? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't even make sense. I need to. Oh my gosh. Should I do the wrong? Did I do it wrong? So I was looking fine. That's very funny. I got to hear myself groaning. All right. What I want to cover with you guys tonight. What do we have for you? I need to start with this while we're waiting for people to filter on in here, which they are still filtering. While we're waiting for them to filter on in, get notifications, things of that nature. Let me share with you all this Jake Tapper moment of enlightenment. When the left finds some clarity and they're like, wait a second. This isn't what I thought it would be. This is not what I thought. This is not how they find a moment of clarity. It's like how deep up your sphincter is your head buried that this is like enlightening to you, Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper.
I went on a left-leaning podcast.
You don't say.
That shall remain nameless.
Shall remain nameless. When he says it shall remain nameless, it's because no one's watching.
And we were talking about my kids because I think they were both people without kids. And
because they're left-leaning, so they don't have kids. That we know. At least kids that they know of.
And they asked me about my son, and I said he was, he's a football player and he wants to be a policeman.
Boom, right there. Boom, right there. Football player wants to be a policeman. Obviously not someone who's very relatable to anyone on the left. He's a football player who wants to be a policeman. How many people, it's like you wonder, is this really the spawn of Jake Tapper? Is that the spawn of Jake Tapper? A football player who wants to be a policeman.
And their joke was about my 15-year-old son. Oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist. My son.
I think it's because he's a football player. Probably a policeman.
And that was the big laugh. And then I got dragged in the comments and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, this is why you fuckers are losing elections.
100%.
Good morning. Good morning. You're surprised by the reaction. That's on you. That's on you. You're so elitist that you don't even know how your own demographic thinks. You're so in the clouds with the elite left that you have no comprehension, because I would have expected that type of reaction from the left. I would totally expect. What else? How else? You telling me your kid has dreams of being a cop? Of course, they're going to think that he wants to hunt black people. Like how obtuse. This is what their leadership is. He's part of the elite leadership. How obtuse. They're so obtuse about what they've created.
Like my football playing son, who has no political views. He's 15. He thinks about World War II and gaming and playing linebacker. That's his world. You're deciding he's a racist.
Where have you been? Where have you been?
Because he wants to be a cop. And why does he want to be a cop? He wants to be a cop because he wants to help people, and he thinks that's the best way he can help people. And that's how the Democratic Party talks to men, not just white men, but men. And I get the idea that they thought Tim Walz could what's the term he used, code switch or something. He thought that he could translate the Democratic Party values because he hunts and fishes and owns a gun and was in the army and drinks a beer. I mean, at least there was an attempt.
But that's how they all think. They all think like that. The ones who are really on the left.
But I find it just insane.
Do you? Do you? It's like when the lights go on. What? You find it insane. Yeah. Welcome. That's like when they say, it's like that old Ronald Reagan joke where he's like, he said, I'm worried that I'm gonna ruin it and not do it as well as the Gipper did. But essentially, he said, I met this couple and their 12-year-old daughter, and I said, hello, how are you? And she told me her name, and I said, what do you want to be? She said, I want to be president. Well, why do you want to become president? So that way I can help all the poor people in the country. And I can get them money. So her parents are beaming at me proudly of the young girl that they raised. So I said, well, why don't you give them money now? And she says to me, I don't have any money. So I said, oh, okay. So I'll tell you what. You can come to my house and you can mow my lawn and I'll pay you $50. And then you can go and give that $50 to a homeless person. And she looks at me and she thinks for a moment and then she says, well, why doesn't the homeless person just mow your lawn? And I said to her, welcome to the Republican Party. And her parents still aren't talking to me to this day. So, yeah. I'm not sure how that tied into what we're talking about, but I'm sure it did. And when I'm watching this on repeat, I'll be like, oh, this is what was going through my brain. Anyhow. So that's Jake Tapper. I'm going to skip this because that's not going to be good if I share that. And let's look at, there's one other thing I wanted to share with you, which I thought this was funny. I thought this was pretty hilarious. Brian Allen, someone I never heard of until a couple months ago. Crazy leftist. He shared this post, and I have to share it with you. This is his post. We're going to enjoy this together. Breaking. You got the fire. You got the alarm. You see the fire and the alarm bell. This is breaking. Furious Americans are now lining up outside Representative Scott Perry's office to deliver a message in person. We will not bankroll Trump's con. This isn't just opposition. It's open revolt. The people are fed up, and they're dragging Republican leadership into the daylight. No more backroom deals. No more gaslighting. If you carry this bill, you carry the political corpse with it. So I assume this is the big, beautiful bill that he's talking about here. So the people are rising up. Do you want to see the people? You want to see the people rising up? Should we take you? We should take a look at the people. The people rising up. They got the eye of the tiger. They're rising up, back in the streets. Let's check out the people who are rising up. This is the video he shares because he doesn't just say things. No, he brings video proof. Let's check out the people. Tell me if you notice anything about the people who are rising up. Here come the people.
Excuse me.
There's all the people, all 30 of them. All 30 of them. You notice anything about all 30 of these people? Because I'm surprised they don't have like the little chair going along the side of the railing there for them. So that the people can rise up. The people are rising up. The people. Here come the people. Oh my gosh. Here they come. Now, if I just saw this video standing in isolation, I would not think this was the people rising up. I would think this is a line for folks who think that they got a free trip to AC so they could play slot machines. I would think that this is perhaps the really racist. These are the forerunners of the KKK because they all white. They all white. I don't know who these people are, but they're all 80-year-old white people. I saw this and I was like, look, there's nothing wrong with being an 80-year-old white person, but don't tell me this is organic. These are people who think that they're getting like a special trip to a retirement home. I don't know. Maybe they're going to Niagara Falls. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what's happening, but one thing I know: if this is the people rising up, if this is them, someone's giving them a helping hand, and I mean that literally and figuratively. Someone is giving the people a helping hand to get off of the couch. Someone is giving these people to not drive here on their own. No. This is not the people rising. So transparent. Maybe it is the MSNBC clan. That would explain it. Oh my gosh. These are people who are, maybe they think this is where I can unload my timeshare. This is the line I can get on so I can unload that timeshare I bought 30 years ago and be paying $10,000 a year for, and can't get anyone to take a week off my hand. I thought that was hilarious. And when I saw the people rising up, the people are coming. Here come the people. One more thing I wanted to share with you because I'm just. I gave it late notifications. I need to give people a few more minutes. Someone informed the nursing home we have a large scale. It's crazy. It's crazy. Every one of them is an old white person. I don't understand. So this was shared with me courtesy of Jim Saltella. Jim shared this with me. Jim Saltella. And it's got law in it, so I need to talk about this. I'm going to cover this story very quickly. Alito and Thomas left stunned after SCOTUS refuses to protect the middle schoolers' speech rights. What were those speech rights violated? By limiting the application of our viewpoint discrimination cases, the decision below robs a great many students of that core First Amendment protection. Supreme Court Justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas left stunned on Tuesday after their colleagues refused to take up a case involving a Massachusetts middle schooler who was reprimanded in school for wearing a shirt acknowledging biological reality as part of its newly released order list. Here's the order list where the Supreme Court tells us what they're taking up. The nation's highest court declined to hear arguments in LM versus Town of Middleborough. The case involves Middleborough, Massachusetts youth Liam Morrison, who in March of 2023 wore a T-shirt that reads, quote, "There are only two genders." And he wore that to Nicholas Middle School. As the Federalist previously reported, Morrison, who was in the 7th grade at the time, quote, was pulled from class by acting principal Heather Tucker, who ordered Morrison to remove the shirt, which no 7th grader should ever be asked to take off their shirt. We should be sending Heather Morrison for investigation into exactly what she was thinking. After Morrison declined to do so, Tucker later said he would not be permitted to return to class until he removed the shirt, prompting the 7th grader to leave school for the day. This prompted Morrison to instead wear a shirt that reads, there are censored genders, which school administrators also prohibited him from wearing. Morrison's father and stepmother filed a lawsuit on his behalf, in which they argued in part that the school's actions violated Liam's First Amendment right to free speech. Federal District Court judge and the First Circuit Court of Appeals declined plaintiffs' relief in the case, leading the latter to ask SCOTUS to take up the matter. While Supreme Court rules require at least 4 justices to agree to hear a case before it can be considered by the full court, Alito and Thomas are the only named justices on Tuesday's orders, list as those who would have granted Morrison's petition. The High Court refused to defend Morrison's First Amendment rights, sparked a scathing dissent from Alito, in which Thomas joined. At the outset, the George W. Bush appointee highlighted Nicholas Middle School's apparent participation in viewpoint discrimination, in which school administrators appear to treat students differently based on whether they find such beliefs to be favorable. He specifically noted, inside and outside the classroom, NMS promotes the view that gender is a fluid construct and a person's self-defined identity, not biological sex, determines whether that person is male, female, or something else, and encourages students to embrace and express this viewpoint, including during the school's Pride Spirit Week. They have a Pride Spirit Week, which that should be illegal. But you want to tell me they have a First Amendment right to that? Okay, then you should have a First Amendment right to say just the opposite. Where outside of a school, where a school is where we're supposed to have education, learning, critical debate, there's nothing hostile in saying there's 2 genders. After detailing the remaining facts of the case, Alito went on to underscore the need for SCOTUS to, quote, reaffirm the bedrock principle that a school may not engage in viewpoint discrimination when it regulates student speech. So you can't say we agree with this side, not the other side, and that's why we'll let these people wear a pride shirt, and we're not going to let you wear a 2-gender shirt, only 2-gender shirt. That's exactly what the Supreme Court said you cannot do. First Circuit completely ignored that SCOTUS precedent. Quote, by limiting the application of our viewpoint discrimination cases, the decision below robs a great many students of that core First Amendment protection. In justifying his reasoning for granting relief in the case, Alito also noted the importance of the Supreme Court determining whether the First Circuit properly understood the rule adopted. Obviously, the First Circuit is very confused regarding the suppression of student speech on the ground that it presents a risk of material disruption. How is that presenting material disruption? Quote, so long as the First Circuit opinion is on the books, thousands of students will attend school without the full panoply of First Amendment rights. That alone is worth this court's attention, Alito wrote. Quote, the problem, however, runs deeper. As this case makes clear, some lower courts are confused on how to manage the tension between students' rights and school obligations. Our nation's students, teachers, and administrators deserve clarity on this critically important question because the court has instead decided to let the confusion linger. I respectfully dissent. That was my point, Hollis. That was my point. With her demanding he takes off the shirt. But you're correct that this is psychological grooming. All jokes aside about a principal asking a 7th grader to take his shirt off. But it is psychological grooming that only with this perspective will be tolerated inside our school. The High Court's refusal to consider the Morrison case isn't the first time a majority of justices have displayed cowardice on upholding Americans' First Amendment rights. A notable and recent example is the Masterpiece Cake Shop incident in which Colorado cake artist Jack Phillips was sued for declining to create a wedding cake for a same-sex couple due to his Christian beliefs. As the Federalist Joy Pullman previously noted, while the Supreme Court ruled in Phillips' favor in 2018, it offered such a narrow ruling as to allow a venomous transgender activist to immediately haul him back into court after speciously demanding that Phillips bake a transgender celebration cake. So they basically said, we're going to trip him up this other way. The Supreme Court allowed this unconstitutional anti-freedom regime to proliferate while pretending to check it with weak and ineffectual action, Pullman wrote. So there you go. Horrible. Terrible. Awful. Shame. 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 I'm checking in on the ghetto. All right. Against David Hogg? We should against David Hogg. Let's talk about David Hogg. Rough week for David Hogg. Two reports here. James O'Keefe, the man, the myth, the legend, is at it again. At it again, this time exposing Vice DNC Chair David Hogg. You know who David Hogg is? Do you need a reminder? If you're not on X, you might not remember who David Hogg is. So, let's pull up his Wikipedia page here. "25-year-old man." This is David Hogg. There he is. American gun control activist who has been serving as one of the 5 vice chairs of the DNC since 2025, rose to prominence during the 2018 United States gun violence protests as a student survivor of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, helped lead several high-profile protests, marches, and boycotts, including the boycott of the Ingram Angle. He also has been target and scapegoat of several conspiracy theories. Oh, well, we'll see that. We'll see. This is Wikipedia. You can't really trust them. Here we go. Tell us, David. Tell us in your own words.
Yes,
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Off the record, of course.
Foundational question for me is like, how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden, well, the president of the United States?
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at that point. Like I would avoid him. Like he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Bernal.
Anthony Bernal.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's like a shadowy, like Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so like. I knew how he looked, but I'm like the general public.
Who didn't know this was happening? Oh, we all knew, but now we start getting names as to who was in charge. And these are the people who should be named in the AutoPen thing. Can the diggers please have this? I'm so sorry. Yeah, I apologize for that. I should have remedied that a while ago. I will open up right now. I was really stressed trying to get these different links up.
But would know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had in the White House.
So here we go. That's the first link I got on this.
I went on a left-leaning podcast that shall remain nameless, and we were talking about my kids.
That's
I think they were
Jake
both
Tapper
people
is popping
kids.
up on me again, and I don't know why.
They asked me about my son, and I said,
I don't want you, Jake.
He's a football player, and he wants to be a policeman.
Go away, Jake.
And their joke was,
all right. Let's see a little bit more.
Off the record, of course.
foundational question for me is like, how corrupt is
The DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like I would avoid him. Like he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Foucault.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's like a shadowy, like Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so like. I knew how he looked, but I'm like the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had in the White House.
So that's just a small snippet. DNC corruption part 2. It's another one of those examples of why.
So James has Veritas back. For the last week, I've been very busy, and this only came to my attention tonight. I just saw that he's been posting videos about him reacquiring Project Veritas, and I hope that happens. I hope that happens. Yeah, while you're here, if you guys can please like, share, and subscribe, I would be most obliged. You can just hit that button. Joey's working it these days.
American conservatives, right-wingers, Republican voters, patriots are so frustrated. Project Veritas, James O'Keefe Media Group, they get these incredible undercover admissions, and then nothing ever comes of it. I mean, I can go back 2016. This is when Laura Loomer was undercover. One such case was when she
Nothing
had
happens.
Aaron Black was the guy's name.
Nothing.
I forget. I don't think that was his real name. But under his DNC operations, they called him Aaron Black. And he would organize these violent protests, most famously the one in Chicago. And he admits all of this on tape, where the Democrats had these violent riots outside of a Trump rally in Chicago and got it shut down. And he bragged about it. And it's just like, there's never any follow-up. Nobody ever investigates it. Of all the things Project Veritas, O'Keefe Media Group has uncovered, there's never been any follow-up.
It's not a knock on O'Keefe or Project Veritas or OMG. It's a knock on the DOJ. And he doesn't mention this in this report. I remember, most of us will remember the scandal with Planned Parenthood, and they're selling parts. Nothing happens. Nothing ever happens. Like, why is there never any follow-up on this?
From Congress. Never from the Department of Justice. Never. Nothing. And all the things they've uncovered. Voter fraud. Just nothing ever happens. So, okay, according to David Hogg, this guy Bernal was majorly influential in the Biden White House, a guy you've never even heard
By the
of.
way, I opened up. I don't know if I said it out loud. In my brain, I did it, but
A guy probably 99.9% Americans have never even heard of. And this is who was running things. Apparently, he's been in the headlines before. Powerful White House official. This is a year ago in the New York Post. Powerful White House official and Jill Biden's work husband, oh boy, is a Me Too nightmare with claims of bullying and sexual harassment. Well, okay, that sounds like what Jill Biden is into.
that's a year ago.
So Joe might not, the equipment might not work anymore. Maybe that's another story. So she has this guy around running things and then using Jill as the face. I mean, this Biden administration was so corrupt, it's unreal. And even Hogg is obviously admitting it there, but he's got to play ball. There's going to be something is going to break inside the Democrat Party. And I mean, look, I'm no fan of David Hogg or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but the truth is, those are two of the names, those are two of the figures that are going to be deciding whether or not they want to break the current Democrat Party leadership.
And I will say this.
And you can see, I think Bernie Sanders is considering this as well. That's why.
I will say this. Trump was our populist figure. Trump was the guy who, from the right, came from the right side of the aisle, and if not originally politically holding those beliefs, but he's expressing and he reawakened populism and the recognition on the right that of the levels of corruption that we have in our government. That could and should, given the current nadir that the Democratic Party is in, it does make sense to envision a David Hogg or an AOC or some other figure from the left recognizing that populism on the left is a potentially beneficial political move for themselves individually and perhaps for the Democratic Party. Much as we had a split of the neocons and MAGA, or Tea Partiers and MAGA, so too you can see that we already know that there's very strong vitriol between the progressives and the establishment Democrats. But I think that the Jimmy Dores of the world, who are coming at it from the left and seeing all the corruption and willing to call out the corruption on the left, I do think there's a market for that. And we can perhaps start to see that if we cannot successfully take this party over, and the frustration that many of us feel with the lack of transparency that we have experienced so far from everyone in the DOJ and FBI in particular, which, let's face it, they've been, while they've had a bunch of arrests of child molesters. As far as their transparency when it comes to Epstein and other issues, there's a lot of frustration that many of us are feeling, where you can see potentially developing a split that would become more official if a similar split would happen in the left side of the aisle. Because I do think that would be ideal. If we had a return to what our founders envisioned for how our political system would be operating, where you wouldn't have this party system, and at the very, it's certainly not a two-party system like we currently have, but you would have perhaps a four-party system where you have your MAGA conservatives, your neocons being two parties, your progressives and your establishment Democrats becoming two parties, and can really split into four viable parties. I do think that America would start to potentially become healthier, because there's a lot of areas where those of us who identify with a MAGA type of perspective, a populist perspective, a root out corruption perspective, clean up our government, pass laws that restrict Congress from being able to, that properly restrict them from being able to use the levers of power that they have access to for their own personal wealth and power. That is, a lot of these perspectives are shared by those on the deep left. And there's no way, given the current political climate of there being only two parties, there's no way for us to actually capitalize on that in order to better our American governance. So you sort of feel this frustration, where it's like right now, or last month or so, especially with everything that we've especially with what happened with the Epstein thing and development since then, there's like this frustration that, okay, let's say Cash and Dan Bongino are genuinely good people, but there's so much evil inside the Beltway, inside Capitol Hill, and power brokers, whether they're lobbyists, whether they're former congressmen, whatever, whether they're funded by, whether they're part of NGOs, non-government organizations that just seem to wield so much power and influence and seem shadowy and unassailable, much less unkillable. You can't even touch them. You can't do anything. That perhaps if we could see a kindling of like more of a four-party system, we could start to actually, I don't know, fight against it. Because our current system right now is not viable. It's not viable. My good friend Andrew Branca, if America can hold out just 5 years, all these people will have passed. Oh, you're talking about the people rising up that I had earlier? I assume that's what you're referring to. Acorn got taken down with the PV report. Oh, that's true. That's great call. Great call, fans. Good job, Peter. Great call indeed. Great call. I didn't notice a whole bunch of videos that he had. He put out a 2-hour video, which I'm not going to go through. But he has when he's talking about coming back and taking over. He's in talks to take over Project Veritas.
I shouldn't have trusted these guys, but I did trust these guys.
A lot of people thought there was malfeasance. I would prefer to say ignorant of those events. I didn't want to know.
Nonprofit boards of directors can be very, very dangerous.
Fortunately, I have recordings and documents to back up everything I'm about to tell you.
Employees were starting to bundle up and talk.
If we're about to paint James as a criminal, it better be fucking good.
They sent a pic of me nailed to a cross.
They used these kids. Matt used them to further his agenda.
The reason why James was bad was morphing.
I never lived this lifestyle with black cards.
He's a mean boss.
I don't know that James has a private life.
James took a pregnant woman's sandwich. And these are people that we thought were people with integrity.
Who on the board is in control?
Turns out board members are taking money from donors.
How much did you invest in each of Matt Tierman's companies?
I don't think that's any of your business.
We're at the pinnacle of Mount Everest.
Are you refusing to answer the question?
Yes.
The only thing that has changed is that we broke the biggest story in our organization's history.
If a board statement goes out, it's fucking over.
A week later, everything changed.
And it wasn't right.
It was the timing of it that was so suspicious.
Is it fair to say that 3 of the 4 companies you've invested in, you would consider to be in the medical field?
So what did the board think people were going to assume?
One of the companies could be sold to a big pharma.
Like Pfizer.
Like Pfizer.
Did the board not think that people were going to assume the worst? I want to talk about your investments.
I want to talk about you.
I'm a fighter.
You're a cheat.
I'm a warrior.
You're a liar.
And I will get my justice. Not revenge, but justice.
Is it all about money? Too bad you can't afford that.
Big difference.
Wow. There you go.
How do you define conflict of interest?
There you go. All right. So there's a whole bunch of videos that are up on O'Keefe Media Group about him being in talks to try and reacquire Project Veritas. I wish him the best of luck in that. I think that the Project Veritas name definitely has value, even if they're sort of a shell of what they are currently, because O'Keefe isn't there. And I think that they do serve a valuable purpose. So yeah, I hope it succeeds. I hope it succeeds, because the only one who's churning out content that I ever see these days is O'Keefe. I don't see Project Veritas churning out anything. So it's really just the name value that's left there. The next thing I wanted to get to is Victor David Hanson. And I wanted to address this here, because he touches on something dealing with talking about President Trump and South Africa. But I think what we're seeing Trump create something brand new. as far as positioning America as as a 21st century imperialism, where we treat the rest of the world like they are our colonies. And a lot of people take that to be a negative, and I think that is 100% a positive. 100% a positive. And I'll explain more about that. But first, let's watch this from Victor David Hanson. A very insightful Victor David Hanson. Big fan of his.
We've had another quote-unquote ambush in the White House. That was not an ambush. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, wanted that meeting with Donald Trump. He requested it. Why did he want to meet Trump? He wanted to meet Trump because he had a free trade agreement with the United States with no tariffs, and he was running a $9 billion surplus. And in addition to that, he was getting $500 million in foreign aid from the United States. His ambassador had just been expelled by Marco Rubio because he made a video and said Donald Trump was a white supremacist, and then said that he was part of a white victimhood movement. This is the ambassador. This is not the South Africa with such promise 30 years ago. This is not Nelson Mandela. This is a racialist state, and it's one of the most anti-Western and anti-American.
Get him, VDH. Get him. This is a good video. I haven't even watched it, and I'm telling you it's good. Joe, none of this is going to matter if Trump keeps pushing crap like the big, beautiful bill and not pushing Congress to do major slash to spending, and it isn't going to happen. I'll talk about that. Soon.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. We've had another quote-unquote ambush in the White House. Ambush, remember, means a unexpected attack on someone from a secretive place. That was not an ambush. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, wanted that meeting with Donald Trump. He requested it. And when he came in, he was prepared to refute Donald Trump. In fact, if you look at the media before the meeting, they didn't use the word ambush. They were giddy. They thought, wow, he's going to give Trump a bill of goods. What he didn't think was that Trump was ready for the bill of goods and had his own bill of goods. But here's the real backstory to the whole thing. Why did he want to meet Trump? He wanted to meet Trump because he had a free trade agreement with the United States with no tariffs placed on the dramatic South African.
I just want to make his point for him over here, just really quick, as far as media.
The dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown. President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
To Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
So there you go. That's what Victor David Hanson is talking about, how the whole story became, it's an ambush.
Giddy. They thought, wow, he's going to give Trump a bill of goods. What he didn't think was that Trump was ready for the bill of goods and had his own bill of goods. But here's the real backstory to the whole thing. Why did he want to meet Trump? He wanted to meet Trump because he had a free trade agreement with the United States with no tariffs placed on South African agriculture, everything, metals, everything. And he was running a $9 billion surplus. And in addition to that, he was getting $500 million in foreign aid from the United States. And in addition to that, his ambassador had just been fired or expelled by Marco Rubio. Why? Because in a performance art fashion, he made a video and said Donald Trump was a white supremacist. This is the ambassador just before this visit, not too long earlier, and then said that he was part of a white victimhood movement. So they kicked him out. Was he embarrassed? No, he had a hero's welcome when he went back. And then we have the larger context of South Africa. It usually votes against the United Nations, at the United Nations against the United States. It signed on to the International Criminal Court's farce that was going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal. We had the video that was shown about the leader of the third largest party in South Africa saying that they wanted to kill the boer, kill the farmer, to a big crowd. And by the way, the year before he said that, 2022, something called the South African Equity Court declared that kill the boer, kill the farmer is not hate speech. I don't know what hate speech is in South Africa if it's not kill a designated minority. And so when you look at all of this, Donald Trump got sick of it. And he said, this country, we don't have any problem with it. We don't hate South Africa, but they're not our friends. This is not Nelson Mandela. This is not the age of conciliation. This is not the South Africa with such promise 30 years ago. This is a racialist state. It's one of the most violent countries in the world, and it's one of the most anti-Western and anti-American. And so when Mr. Ramaphosa came to set Donald Trump straight, Donald Trump said, you know what? I don't think you like us, so I'm not going to give you $500 million in foreign aid. You know what? I don't think you like us because you think I'm a white supremacist, so we're not going to give you free trade into our markets. We're going to charge 30% tariff. You know what? You know, your ambassador, all you guys come over here, you don't like us. You think that the left-wing foundations, the left-wing media, the left-wing universities are running the country. The left-wing, they're not. They're not. So when you come over here and attack us and call us racist, maybe you shouldn't come over here. You know, just have a little peace. Maybe all your foreign students, your green card holders, your visitor visa, maybe we should just have a little cooling off period.
Yeah.
And so what Donald Trump was saying is that this is not the South Africa that we used to know, but it was running on the fumes of Mandelaism. At the United States, it's hostile to the United States. At the United Nations, it's hostile to the United States. It takes advantage of the trade agreement to run up a $9 billion surplus. It gets $500 million in aid, and it shows no gratitude. It attacks us. It attacks us. And then when we try to say that you have a law that is going to appropriate land without compensation, you deny that you're doing it. That was the whole purpose of it. No compensation. You can say, well, it was for public domain, but everybody knows that. So everybody who confiscates land does it for the public, but they compensate people except you. And finally, you know, you want internet. You want internet like Ukraine has. You want internet like remote places in Asia and Africa have. And you want, therefore, Starlink. And you think that Elon Musk is a native son, so you're going to invite him in and have a Starlink. But you can't even do that. You say, you can come in, we'll give you the privilege to come into our market, as if Elon Musk needs that. But we're going to take a third of your company and your franchise here in South Africa, and it has to be staff partnered with people who are of a particular color, black people. And Elon Musk says, I think I'll pass on that nice invitation. And then they get very angry. And now they'll probably bend. Final word, I think Mr. Ramaphosa will be, I don't think Donald Trump will visit South Africa, but I guarantee you Mr. Ramaphosa will want another meeting like Mr. Zelensky did. And he will come in and he will say, please take away the 30% tariff. Please give us the $500 million handout in foreign aid. Please let all the South Africans, not just the 48 people, and who, by the way, whom we called cowards because they didn't want to play the lottery whether they were going to get killed or not. But let all of us come back in, please, please, please. And we promise that we will not allow people to pack stadiums, say kill the bar, kill the farmer, and say that's not hate speech. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Now, he's talking specifically, obviously, about South Africa throughout that entire thing. But this is what we've seen Trump been doing. This is we are in a position now where we have a president who has the cojones and the will to turn the world into essentially our colonies. And colonies is considered by the left certainly to be a dirty word. Colonialism is considered to be a dirty word. It's a sign that you're terrible, terrible people there. But that concept of hating on the term colonialism is by a bunch of communists who think that, you know, we're one global economy and that we're one, and that there's no difference between an American citizen, American privileges, American rights, and an Indonesian, or as you know, someone from the Congo or from Peru. That's why they don't want borders. That's why they don't, because there's no difference. People are people. That globalist perspective of we're all in it together. Let's pretend that we're all of the same mindset, all the same ideology. That blind, ridiculous perspective that folks who live in the Far East have the same cultural mindset as folks who live in the West, or folks who live in the Middle East, or folks who live in South America. That we all are one similar mindset is A, crap, B, short-sighted, C, dangerous, D, foolish. It's cutting off your nose for the purpose of cutting off your nose, not even to spite your face. It's you're cutting off your nose so that we can say, look at how I cut off my nose. I'm such a victim and I'm such a good person. It's the stupidest thing in the world. Now, people look at the word colonialism as being ugly, and what I respectfully suggest is no. This is 21st century colonialism that Trump is embarking in, and I say to him, kudos, excellent, because it's not colonialism where we're forcing people to be our slaves. We're forcing them to be our vassal states. It's capitalistic colonialism, not in the way that Great Britain said, we're going to bleed you dry. No. It's in the way Costco says you need to pay an annual fee if you want to do business here. How do they get away with it? Well, because what Costco is offering, Sam's Club is offering, is something you can't get elsewhere. So if the capitalist in you wants to take advantage of our capitalistic society, if you want to enjoy the fruits of our capitalism, since we are the biggest fish in the pond, you are going to deal with us in a certain way that is going to A, be polite, and B, be financially rewarding to us. And that is not benefiting Congress. That is benefiting America. That is benefiting American citizens. We're now, our domestic corporate giants are in a far more enriched position, and that translates throughout the American society. There's nothing wrong with using the power of the purse when the power of the purse is not being wielded by Congress, but it's being wielded by folks who actually produce something, i.e., the American business economy. Not the economy as being regurgitated by Congress, where they're redistributing, we're trying to push this particular type of growth in agriculture, this particular agenda, or that particular ideology. No. This is capitalism, as in, what does the market want and how do we serve that market? And America is better at serving that market than anyone else, and it's not even close. And being able to tap in to the American market, which is only fostered and fueled by our, thank God, amazing economy, by and large, certainly in comparison to anyone else in the world, gives us leverage. And that leverage that Donald Trump, bless his soul, hallowed be his name, not trying to blaspheme, not idolizing the man, just saying, great president, that he is able to, he has the cojones to say, you know what, we have this strength, let's use it so that America can benefit. So what does he do? What does he do? In his typical Trumpian style, he basically says, I don't like what's going on here. I want something to change, to be better. And immediately, whichever country he's talking about, it could be Canada, it could be the UK, it could be South Africa, it could be China. It doesn't matter you fill in the blank on the country. It doesn't matter. He basically says, this is not working for us. It's not working for me. It's not working for us. Here's a list of what I'm making demands of you if you want to continue to participate in the wealthiest economy on the planet. You want to continue participating? Great. You don't? Okay. So don't. So we'll carve you out if that's worth it to you. But if it's not worth it to you, if you'd rather enjoy the fruits of the American economy, well, in that case, you're going to have to follow certain tailored rules for your country, whether that country is Canada, whether that country is South Africa or China or whomever. And he's using America's strength, America's attributes in ways that now basically force all 190 other countries to say, okay, what do you want from me? And if you can make a deal that's going to be worth it to them, they'll pay. That's what you should be demanding of every leader you ever elect to any facet of government. Whatever role we put you in, we want you to be serving our constituents to the best possible way, to enhance our position, to make our lives better. Now, some folks will see Trump and say that he's a bully. And I say to you, yes, there are times he can be a bully. And I also say to you, you should be thanking God for that. Because he's a bully, not simply like in tweets or something like that, which fortunately he's dialed that back somewhat during the second term. No, he's a bully to competitors on the international stage. And he's willing to basically say, I need you to act a certain way with us. I need you to deal with us financially a certain way with us. And who is that? Is that benefiting him individually? No, that's benefiting you. That's benefiting our domestic international companies. Our folks who are dealing in international trade, it is benefiting them. And that invariably cannot do anything other than help us. We, the poorer slobs, who are not CEOs of Walmart or Amazon. It can only benefit us. And so I say to you this, is this colonialism in the 21st century? Yes, there's no real colonialism today the way you had in the 19th century. But this is a type of colonialism where basically America is saying you're going to be working for us. You're going to be working in terms that are not necessarily balanced. Now, frankly, we spent decades and decades being the world's sap. Where not only would we not flex our economic muscle, we pay people, send out hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to everyone, irrespective of what we could potentially be getting back for that, what that investment was for. Paying people to be our friends, which I don't agree with that. That's wrong. It's stupid. And I don't care who that friend is. I don't care if that friend is the UK or the EU or Israel or Canada or anyone. Doesn't matter. South Africa, South America, I don't care. You know, we are the ones who people should be coming to looking to be our friend. Now, if you have some isolated project that you're telling me that this is something you want to invest in, this is something you want, that is beneficial or is, particular is a short-term need that's in this particular crisis area. You got some hurricane in Haiti and you have some sort of humanitarian relief you want to send there because the Clinton Foundation is only going to suck up that money and keep it for themselves. And you're telling me that you can actually have some good faith people who are going to work in a short-term basis and that ultimately this is somehow beneficial to America. And in times of surplus, I say fine. If in times of surplus, not when we're bleeding ourselves, in times of surplus, maybe I can understand that. Maybe. But this annual doling out of massive checks, big checks, big checks, big checks. No one knows what happens to the money. Big checks. No. And the first presidents come along in ever and start questioning, do we have to be doing this? And especially if you're spitting in our face. Donald Trump. And part of the reason, if you hear anyone complaining and implying that the term colonialism is inherently evil, it's a type of slavery, right? I mean, that's how you could sort of look at it, because traditionally colonialism, the reason it's considered an ugly term is because the colony was invariably treated like a slave vassal that has to serve the master to its own detriment until it could break free, like we did from Great Britain. So that's why there's an ugliness behind it. Over here, we're letting these countries choose. Is this deal worth it to us? Is it worth it to you? Do you want to partake or not? And maybe you can negotiate Trump down a little bit, which most do. That's okay. He's ultimately he's the head of foreign international affairs, so he should have the final say there. Unfortunately, I mean, the way he negotiates has been a hell of a lot better than anyone else you can name who's been the leader of our country. And I mean anyone else you can name when it comes to international affairs. I mean all 47. So you tell me, why should we not be cheering that? We should be cheering the dawning of capitalist colonialism and telling folks, you want to be a capitalist yourselves and deal with us, you've got to work in accordance with whatever terms our fine president lays out for you. There you go. And the reason we should all be applauding that is because this is bettering America. Now, Zelian asked me a question. I thought it was a fair question. Fair question that he asked. I assume Zelian is male. But Zelian said, I disagree with him. It isn't anti-America or anti-West. It's anti-white. If you want proof. Oh, wait, it was a different chat. The first thing was, Joe, none of this is going to matter if Trump keeps pushing crap like the big, beautiful bill and not pushing Congress to do major slash to spending, and that isn't going to happen. So I agree with you. I definitely prefer the concept of slash, and we need to do a lot more slashing, not just the 160 billion that Doge found and that Congress seems all too reluctant to actually carve out. But we need to do a heck of a lot more slashing. We should be slashing that $1 trillion he promised us, and probably 2.5 times that. But you talk about the big beautiful bill, and I want to share with you something I saw from Diligent a couple of days ago. It was a voice. It was a space. It was a space that he had where he was talking about this. Let me just get some of these chats real fast. Propose, if we replace Joe's vape with a phallus-shaped alternative, he'll quit vaping. I'm supposed to quit by the end of the next month. That would work, though. That definitely would work. POTUS has won his lawsuit with the Pulitzer Prize Board, and the New York Times and Washington Post must give their prize back to Pulitzer. Really? Really? That is great. I didn't see that. Thank you for apprising me. I did not know that. That's great. So I want to see if I can find this thing from Diligent Denizen. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know that I will. I don't know that I will. I don't know. I don't remember where I saw it. Give me a moment. There's a couple of days ago I saw also, and he posts a lot. He's a hardcore poster. Maybe he sent it to me. Let me check that first. Did he send it to me? Huh? Maybe put it in here. Is that possible? Give me a moment to see if I can find it in this private chat. So many posts. I'm gonna need a minute here. You can talk amongst yourselves. Don't worry. I'm not restricting you. Oh my god, only 15 hours ago? Twitter's gonna take me a minute. I'm starting to give up hope. Feels like it's way too buried. I'm giving this another like 90 seconds before I just say I'm done. I really wanted to find this. It was a whole thing that he had with where he had Grok interacting. He was asking Grok about the big beautiful bill. And it was really like best case scenarios, like how this could actually work out. And it was best case scenario. But it was breaking down the numbers as to potential impact on trade. Let's see. All right. I promised I was going to give up. It's Monday. I'm going to have to find it another time. I'll ask him to send it to me. All right. I covered what I wanted to cover here for the most part. Pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. All right, my friends. It's time for me to land my plane. I thank you all for joining me. I will be expect to be back tomorrow. I am hoping to do a locals also tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be a big day. I'm going to have the conclusion of Deontay Nash, and then we're going to have Mia on the stand, and then I'm going to be dropping a couple of vids on Diddy, and I plan on doing following program, and I'm also going to squeeze in a locals tomorrow. That's at goodlogic.locals.com. I said goodlogic.locals.com. Did I stutter? I may have. So it's goodlogic.locals.com. You heard me, right? I think you heard me. Right. So I urge you, please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment in the algorithm, because the algorithm just loves comments, apparently, for one reason or another. I don't know why, but they do. And I will see you all tomorrow. Till then, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you. Right. So, you know what they say, plane coming in fast. Plane is coming in fast. There was actually this, I disagree with him. It isn't anti-American or anti-West, it's anti-white. If you want proof, look up B-BBEE South Africa. It's why companies aren't operating there. I think South Africa in general is a mess. Spud says, strange woman lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate for the masses, not from some farcical aquatic ceremony. This is a quote, and I don't know what it's from. Is it Wonder Woman? I don't know what. Aquaman? I don't know what that's from. Sorry. I am feeling suddenly very tired. So I will see you all tomorrow. Lammy, they, them, not you. You knew that. You knew that already. You also know what I'm going to tell you next, which is do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining. Good night. Godspeed.